TNCRadio.LIVE, your commercial driver navigation station.
Good afternoon. This is TNCRadio.LIVE, and this is the Truckers Network Radio Show with your host, Shelley Johnson.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Yes, this is the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNCRadio.LIVE. We're all about the news, talk, information, and entertainment that drivers want to hear. You know, many drivers deal with neck, back, and joint pain from years of repetitive motion and the rigors of driving. There are unique ways to deal with that pain today. And today we have Dr. Stefania Incollingo, the owner of New Heights Chiropractic and Nutrition. She focuses on 4 types of chiropractic care treatment. Dr. Steph obtained her Doctorate of Chiropractic Medicine at New York Chiropractic College and her Bachelor of Science in Biology at Temple University. She's a chiropractor who is sincerely passionate about finding what's causing her patient's pain. Whether it be physical, emotional, or nutritional stressors, she devotes her time to identifying the root of the problem in order to improve her patient's health. She works with truckers, and she knows the issues they have. Welcome, Dr. Steph. We're so happy to have you on the show today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're able to help drivers.
Yes, absolutely. So as you hear from that awesome introduction, I am a chiropractor and I'm also a nutritionist. And I've been having, where I am located in Ben Salem, PA, which is right above the greater Northeast Philadelphia region, we have a lot of hotels around the area where truckers tend to stay the night, stop. So I do have a good amount of trucker patients coming in, all with very similar neck, back pain. I'm very aware of, the very long hours of driving. And then, of course, lifting, loading things into their truck. And realistically, I think that I shine in helping them not only while they're here through the treatment that I give, but also giving them stretches, giving them exercises, talking about how you should be sleeping, even with your pillows, what size pillow. I mean, you name it. We really go over everything you can do on your time because I know how busy and demanding their schedule is. So I'm aware that sometimes they have to see different chiropractors depending on where they're staying. Not everyone's going to give you the same treatment. Not everyone's going to give you the same advice. So if you can find someone who is giving you advice that sticks for you when you're not in the office and where you can manage your symptoms in between getting some treatment in, you're going to have the most success.
What are the major problems or consistent problems you see with drivers, and how can they mitigate that pain? Because it's something I would imagine that's from repetition, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny because, whether you're driving a truck or you're sitting at a desk job, it's the sitting that is really people are calling it the new smoking. They're saying sitting is the new smoking because of how much pain the driving is causing their low backs. So I would say really that because they are hitting bumps in the road and and the chair is bouncing and they're kind of having this bouncing motion, there's a lot of, it's called intradiscal pressure. So a lot of pressure on the discs throughout the spine, but especially the low back. So if you were to picture your spine, that you would have a bone, a disc in that pattern. And I want you to think of your disc as kind of like a jelly donut. The inside is the jelly and the outside is like the harder part of the donut. And with that bouncing and sitting for long hours, the jelly kind of pops out of the donut, it squirts backwards, and it will press on a nerve. That tends to cause maybe sciatic pain, or what I like to call is a herniated disc, so disc pain, which is low back pain that can radiate into your leg, but it's primarily caused by sitting for a really long time, and then you stand up and you go to pick up a pencil off the ground, and you feel a little tweak or pop or spasm in your low back, and I like to tell my patients that's often the straw that broke the camel's back. So they're like, oh, Dr. Steph, I didn't do anything. I just picked something up off the ground. It's the repetition, like you said, Shell, that's really what gets them there. So the number one complaint, to answer your question, I would say, is low back pain. And how to mitigate that, as you're driving, living your life, is obviously you can't stand up every hour on the hour while you're driving like you could at a desk job. Of course, take advantage of the breaks that you do have. I know a lot of my truckers, a lot of times they don't even get out of their truck. They just go onto their mattress, or they lay in the back, and moving around is going to be key, because your body hates to be in a static motion for long periods of time. It does not want to be seated for a long period of time. So trying to move when you can is key. If you're in the truck and when you switch with your partner and you are still driving, there are certain hip stretches that can actually go a really long way to taking a lot of pressure off of your low back. One of them is for your low back. It's pretty simple. I mean, you can absolutely YouTube or look these up for my truckers who are listening, but it's called a McKenzie exercise. So basically you lay on your belly, and looks like you're going to go do a push-up, but don't worry, you're not. And you just very simply lift up your chest and arch your back a very slight amount, so where you kind of feel that your muscles in your low back contracting, and you come back down. So that movement, that extension in that lower back as you kind of lift your chest up in this very mini type push-up, allows that disc to kind of get pushed back into its place to take pressure off the nerve. And, it's a very common chiropractic exercise to give to people, and physical therapy, but it works wonders, especially if you've ever been in a car accident before, if you have any sort of lower disc issue. It helps tremendous. If you're someone who's suffering from low back pain because you're aware that you have arthritis in your back, and maybe you have some disc pain in your back, or maybe you just don't know, there's another stretch that I'm telling my patients to do. And so when you lay on your back, and when you sit down and you bring your leg up as a figure 4, and you see some people lean forward and it stretches their kind of butt and their hip area. I don't know if you're familiar with that stretch, if you're just like kind of sitting on the chair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can do that when you're laying down. So you make that figure 4 motion, and you grab behind your one knee, and you just pull both legs towards your chest. You're going to feel more of a stretch in your hamstring and your butt and the side of your leg and your inner thighs. But what that actually does, that flexion, that bending of the lower of your pelvis, it takes a lot of pressure off your low back. And that stretch in your hips takes a lot of pressure off of your low back. So the big reason why there's so much back pain while you're sitting for so long is because your hips get so tight that when you go to simply just stand up, you are using your back muscles 100% of the time, when really we were built to allow our legs and our hips to do that motion for us. But over time, our butt, unfortunately, we got some weak butts, because our butt muscles, our gluteus muscles, they get really weak because we sit a lot. And when we go to stand up and we go to bend down, especially my men, because they typically are used to kind of bullying through picking things up, they use their back 100% of the time. They're not even thinking about using their legs. And that over time, that repetitive motion will crush your back.
So we really were never designed to sit, were we?
No, never. So that's why they're calling it the new smoking. Sitting is single-handedly ruining people's health.
I don't know if you know the stats. I'm just kind of curious. I'm digressing a little bit here. 50, 60 years ago, when probably more people didn't sit as much, did they have as many problems like this?
I am convinced that they did not have as many problems, in my personal opinion. There is something to be said. I tell my patients all the time, if you have chronic pain and you come see me, this sounds like, kind of ridiculous to say, but I have so much faith, and I've seen it happen so many times, that if you change your diet, which of course is what I do as well, if you change your diet, what you're putting into your body, and you adapt an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, and you start moving more, and you prioritize movement as your life and being active, your chronic pain will turn in, if it's a 9 out of 10, it will turn into a 2 out of 10. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be 100% better, because if you have arthritis and other conditions, you have to expect a little bit of pain, but your quality of life will get substantially better. And I've seen it time and time again. But unfortunately, the life that people live and the way that people think is let me just pop this Advil or crush this six-pack or take this Oxy or, just get this massage once a year or maybe never, let me carry all of this stress, not even physical stress, emotional, mental stress that sits in your body physically. And it just it ruins us.
And it's exhausting too.
Yeah, nothing that a few Soma couldn't fix,
There it is.
Well, it sounds like you have some tremendous insight into how everything works. And I think that's what everybody's kind of looking for. It's like, can I have an answer to this, please? Because I don't think people really want to have to pop a pill. They want to just get better and feel better. And certainly that's essential for drivers because it saps their energy and it makes their job so much tougher. We're talking with Dr. Stefania Incollingo, the owner of New Heights Chiropractic and Nutrition on TNCRadio.LIVE. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. Definitely stay tuned for more. She's got some great information coming up. This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We also have Tom Kirk here with us today. And we're interviewing and talking to Dr. Stefania Incollingo. She's the owner of New Heights Chiropractic and Nutrition. She's got some great information. Dr. Steph, do you get a lot of pushback from people who say, chiropractic, it doesn't work?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I hear it very, very often. And to keep it really short and frank with you, I just tell those people to come in and let me fix them. I don't even get into long debates and scientific arguments because everyone can argue a point and everyone can debate until they're blue in the face. But my clinical expertise will absolutely prove otherwise as long as most chiropractors in my field. So sometimes I get these questions or these concerns, and my real answer is if you have a problem, let me come in, let me do an assessment, and let me treat you, and then we can go from there. Because as you're in my office, I think Tom can attest to this as well in a second, I definitely spend a lot of time educating my patients. This is not an office where you would come in and you would get what some people call a whack and crack adjustment, just to come in and get adjusted and leave. I like to tell you, why you're here, what kind of led you, what's causing your pain, what to do on your own time, like we touched on earlier, and just ways to keep you out of pain. And I think it's really important for people to understand what caused their pain, and that's when they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, yeah, and I give them an action plan.
Tom, how has Dr. Steph helped you?
Well, back around Christmas time, I was having some issues with sciatic as well as some occasional numbness or nerve tingling, for lack of a better term, in the arms and the legs. And I had been to a chiropractor before, had some massage before, which helped, but I just hadn't been able to find a good chiropractor that I could get into regularly. And it was getting real bad. It was to the point where I was taking Advil or Aleve 2 to 3 times a day, pretty much the largest dose that a person of my size can safely take in order to function. And a lot of drivers, you'll be shocked when you look at a lot of drivers how much pain that we can tolerate and that we consider normal, and that when we're taking that much pain, you go to somebody else, I mean, they're basically, for lack of a better term, crippled up, and they're looking at us and goes, how can you function with this every day? And we're like, we have to. It's what we do. And when I went into Dr. Steph, she started going through a lot of the stuff with me, and some of the stuff I had knew from seeing other chiropractors. But the thing that was really different about this visit, she was asking, some about my diet, gave me a few tips on that, but she talked about what kind of stress are you under. And the next thing I know, this is a woman I've never met before, I'm opening up the stuff to her that I rarely talk about to even my best friends. And by the end of that visit, I felt relaxed. A lot of the emotional stress, I won't say was gone, but it was off my chest, for lack of a better word. And over the next several weeks, every visit, I started seeing an improvement. And, for the first day or two, I might not feel the best. Hungover might be a good way to phrase it because of the amount of work that had to be done. And by the end of basically a month of seeing her once a week, I was a different person. I was rarely taking anything for pain. I was, able to sleep on my side, which I had not been able to do in years, particularly if the truck was moving down the road. And the differences that it made is just to me was amazing. And I've dealt with chiropractic for years, but just the difference I saw from this particular set of treatments made a huge difference in my life. It actually gave me a life back, so to speak.
That's awesome.
So good. Thank you, Tom.
Dr. Steph, what do you do differently?
I would say that because I have my background in nutrition, I think very differently. Like Tom kind of touched on, I want to hear about your emotional stressors. I want to hear about your diet. I want to hear about how you sleep or, what you do for work. I ask a lot of questions. I think that's a big thing I do differently because it tailors my treatment plan better to get to the problem sooner, to fix it faster. I know while you're actually here, I do cupping therapy, which is a big, big thing that I do in my office. I don't know if you've ever heard of cupping. It's suction cups.
No, what is that?
So they're basically suction cups, right? They look like suction cups, and you put them on the skin, and first of all, you put the cream down. The cream is amazing in itself, but once you put the suction cup onto the skin in these areas that are painful or you have tension or discomfort there, it does a few really cool things. The first thing it does is it brings a lot of blood flow to the area. So if you ever see Michael Phelps, I think was the person who got it really big into this area, where people were seeing him with these bruises all over his back. So it brings blood flow into the area, and the blood flow comes in kind of like a wave, and it just flushes out any inflammation you have in that specific area. It opens up your pores. So it's basically like a natural detoxer. You're detoxing through your skin. So the toxins that get trapped in the tight muscles that we are releasing through the actual suction of this cup will come out through your now opened pores, and as you have to hydrate that day, your body will really be able to flush out, and you'll be able to pee out those toxins. So
does that actually flush through your lymphatic system and stuff too?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. It's coming through the skin, but I mean, all of those toxins come through your lymphatic system, of course. And that's why kind of Tom mentioned the hangover, so to speak, because, when someone comes into me, if they have a lot of inflammation in their body and I use the cups on them, they will feel not great the next day, but it's going to get them better. And then some people that come in, even if they don't have a lot of inflammation in their body, but they're in a lot of pain, and I cup them and they feel like a changed person. Some people come in just to get cupped for anxiety and tension that they have carrying in their body. Mm-hmm. As Tom kind of touched on, you carry so much emotional stress in your physically in your body. And some people just need to come in and find an outlet to let that out. And the suctions will literally release that tension, especially in your upper back.
What other types of treatment do you use? This sounds really, really interesting, and it sounds like people are really getting some great results.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I do a lot of adjusting. I definitely adjust full spine. So, I can do ankles, your whole spine, but ankles, wrists, elbows, shoulders, whatever it need be. A lot of muscle work. I do a lot of muscle work. So a lot of chiropractors just adjust. I definitely get into the actual muscle, into areas that are contributing to your pain. So just because you have back pain, I actually do this technique where I dig in through the front of your hip, because the front of your hip, this muscle that's deep into the belly, will actually contribute to that back pain. So I find areas where I know that are contributing to the pain that you're having, and I release the tension in them so you can walk right, sit right, move right. And I do decompression for the neck. So that's a machine that you strap your head in. It pulls your head up. It opens up that spine. It takes any pressure that might be pressing on a nerve. It takes that pressure off of the nerve. So if you ever have like tingly feelings into your hands or arms or anything, it takes pressure off of the nerve. And then I also I will be doing in 2 weeks when I get my new table. It's called flexion and distraction. The table will bend and kind of open up, stretch out your low back. Blood flow will pump in and toxins will pump out. So we do a couple of cool things here.
I would say it's very cool. And you're talking about the decompression on the neck. That's huge. I actually have neck problems, and I had gone, I'm from Michigan. I'd gone to the University of Michigan, and they had recommended a device like that. I think it was called the Saunders traction unit or something. Yeah. But it made a huge difference doing the stretching.
Yeah.
Because it created more space in between the discs. And isn't that part of it? We start to compress.
Yes. Yes, gravity alone, but also, I mean, think about my truckers. When that compressive force, it just as that chair kind of bounces a little bit, some of their chairs the seats that they're in are not as great, and either you're hitting these potholes or bumps in the road, and there's so much force going into your spine that it's just really, really causing a lot of issues. So when you just open that all up, it could be life-changing.
Tom, as a driver, has this increased your energy and made you feel like a new man?
I personally think it has, but is it the chiropractic or the fact that some of the simple diet tips she gave me that I've started to incorporate? Because I used to be, or tried to be, very healthy in eating and cooking on the truck, particularly before I started team driving. And with team driving, I'm looking at her going, I don't have the time to cook the way I used to, and I don't have time to do this, and I'm really struggling with things that I could do. And she says, okay, what do you have to work with for a refrigerator? Well, I have an area about the size of a small shoebox. All right, well, do this, and this. These don't need to be refrigerated. These do. And let's just start small and simple and see how that starts affecting the rest of you. And between the stretching that she's having me doing, between the few minor diet changes as well as the chiropractic, I can definitely see an improvement in how I feel and the energy levels and things of that nature. And in my opinion, when you go to a chiropractor, whether they're more of a comprehensive chiropractor or a whack and crack, and if you're hurting real bad, and I've been to those in the past, they can get you through the short term. But I now have a different philosophy than I did 3-4 months ago on chiropractic, which is, I'd go in when I hurt. Now I'm looking at it, okay, yeah, I go in when I hurt, but if I can fix the underlying causes, then I don't have to go back as often. Or I know I'm always going to have to go back because of some of my issues, but I may not have to go back as often, and I'm feeling better. So to me, yeah, some people may say, well, that's a lot of money to spend, X number of dollars every so many weeks, but to me, it's an investment, and it's helping me feel better. It's definitely, when you're not hurting, you feel less tired, is really what it boils down to.
Oh, yeah. Pain is something that will just wipe you out. There's no doubt about it. We're going to talk more with Dr. Steph, the owner of New Heights Chiropractic and Nutrition. Some great information here on TNCRadio.LIVE. Stay tuned for more coming up. This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're talking with Dr. Stefania Incollingo, the owner of New Heights Chiropractic and Nutrition. Tom Kirk was sharing, Dr. Steph, that his diet changes that you helped him make really, really helped. What is some starter advice that you have for drivers on their diet?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So just right off the bat, something that if they're looking to lose weight specifically, is to really take advantage of what's called intermittent fasting. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, Shai, or not, but fasting,
yes, mm-hmm.
Good, yeah. Fasting is quite literally incredible for a multitude of reasons. It regulates your blood sugar, it regulates your insulin, but those are all fancy words for basically saying it gets you in shape and allows your body to lose weight at a tremendous speed, because you're giving your body a lot of time to, specifically your liver, a lot of time to metabolize the things that you eat in a given window. So what do I mean by that is I tell my patients to pick about an 8-hour window of when they're going to eat. So it's going to obviously have to change per their work schedule, depending on what that looks like for them. So if you go to bed, if they're going, whatever time you go to bed, you want to try to stop eating around 2 hours before you actually fall asleep. So if you can count upwards, so say, for example, I go to bed at 10 o'clock. I'm going to stop eating no later than 7 o'clock at night, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I would start eating at 11. So everyone says, you don't skip your first meal, have to have breakfast. Well, breakfast is breaking your fast. So whenever you break your fast, that is your breakfast. There is this idea that you have to have your eggs and your toast and your scrapple in the morning, and that's just false. Intermittent fasting gives you a time where every day you have this 8-hour window. So you have a 16-hour window where your body is like, okay, now I can metabolize, any kind of medications you've taken. I can metabolize the food you've eaten. I can create energy for you. I can get into a fat burning state. I can do all these things because I know exactly when you're eating during the day, and I know exactly when you're fasting. Instead, people wake up, they eat at 6 a.m., maybe again at 12 p.m. or whatever, at 1 p.m., and then they eat maybe dinner. So their eating is so infrequent and all over the place that the body doesn't really know exactly when it's time to do what it has to do. So when you get into, just like you like routine in your life, your liver actually likes routine in how often that you're eating. So if you can pick an 8-hour window where you're eating and try to not go more than 3 to 4 hours between your next meal, you'll be able to regulate your blood sugar. You're going to find that you have more energy. You're going to find that you'll be able to drop weight. And an advice that I've given Tom before is to, if you have the means to do this, he was saying how small his refrigerator was in the truck. So, take advantage of your dry goods staples, and we'll talk about looking at ingredients in a second. But if there's any way where you can carry some fresh, fruits or veggies in that little spot, and if you could make a shake, if you can make your own shake and you have a little blender or there's something that's portable and you can make your own with some protein powder that doesn't have any sugar in there, some spinach, some fruit, great. You're already on the right track. If you can't, there are some options depending on where you stop. There's some green naked shakes out there that the brand's called Naked, and the green shake's not too bad. It's filled with a good amount of vegetables in there. I don't like all of their smoothies, but I do like the green one that they have. But there's options. So the intermittent fasting would probably be like my first word of advice. My second is going to be looking at the ingredients in the foods that you're eating. So if you're on a quest to have more energy, to sleep better, but really to lose weight, you're not paying attention to grams anymore in the foods that you're eating. You want to pay attention to the actual ingredients. So I hear this all the time. Dr. Steph, it only says 3 grams of sugar or 2 grams of carbs or la, 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 la. And I say, no. I do not care about the numbers. Either should you. You have to look at the ingredients of the food that you're eating, and you can never assume because the label says natural or this or organic or that there's no sugar in there. So you're looking for words that say sugar, that say syrup, that say fructose, or, sucralose, or erythritol, mannitol, stevia. These are all artificial sweeteners. These are things that are going to really elevate your blood sugar. Your body's going to release excessive insulin, and then that's going to make your body store things as fat. So we think we're doing I drink orange juice when I'm sick because of the vitamin C. Okay, but that orange juice that you're drinking is crushed with sugar. So you can't just assume certain things are healthy without actually looking at the ingredients. And something that they do, which is kind of evil, but it's good to know, when you're looking at the ingredients, say, for example, you have a peanut butter and it says, in this order, sugar, peanuts, and palm oil, you have to understand that it is listed from the most saturated product to the least saturated product.
Yep, that's true.
Right? So you know that you just picked up that peanut butter thinking, oh, peanuts are healthy, that's fine. But there's more sugar in it than peanuts. So it sneaks in through nut butters, through protein bars, through condiments is a huge one, through beverages. People think that they're beverages. You have to, your diet drinks, oh, my friends, please do not touch diet beverages. Not only are the artificial sweeteners are
terrible
for your health. They're feeding the bad bacteria in the gut. They're making your body, gain weight just as much as sugar. But it's actually extra terrible because that sweetness in there sends a signal to your brain once it touches your taste buds, and it tells your brain, hey, this is sweet, but there's no calories that follow it. So your brain does this crazy little thing where it releases more hunger hormones. So now, if you're sitting there and you're eating McDonald's and your friend is sitting next to you and they're eating McDonald's and they have a Diet Coke and you have a regular Coke, your friend is going to eat more than you at that sitting, even if you guys are the same body and you're the same amount hungry, because the diet will release more hungry hormones in the body, telling you to overeat.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I knew that the artificial sweeteners in diet pop and stuff were terrible for me.
Oh, I love that you said pop. Yes, your iced tea, your soda, any of those diet beverages. If it says diet on there, just avoid it. Just avoid it.
You know, from what I understand, the manufacturers of food, maybe back as early as the 50s, started adding sugar because it kept people coming back. I mean, it's a very addictive. Our bodies just love sugar, but
it's more addictive, than cocaine and heroin. That's what studies have shown.
And it's toxic. The body doesn't metabolize it well.
That's right. Not only that, it's socially acceptable to be addicted to sugar.
That's true.
So you can be addicted to sugar and no one's blinking an eye.
Very true. So what would you say? Basically, drivers should eat maybe every 4 hours. And what is the ideal snack to keep their body going? Because obviously it's so easy to be munching on something going down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if they can get at least 2 meals into their day. So like if they have to stop and they can get one solid meal that's going to fill them up like substantially, that's great. But if you snack all day, it can be like a black hole of snacking. But if you are going to have some, what you can have in between meals, really take advantage of your whole foods as best as you can. It's things that that your apples, your oranges, your bananas, your mixed nuts should be like a part of your life. Almonds, cashews, walnuts, you name it. That should be a part of your life. I mean, if you're I would take advantage, the worst part about it is that there's not enough availability for the truckers at these stops that are healthy, obviously. So like if you could stop at Wawa, you could do pretty decent there. You can get some hard-boiled eggs. I go to Wawa frequently, and I get their mixed green salad with their chicken salad on top, and I get 2 scoops with the tomatoes and some balsamic on top, and it's a great meal, and it fills me up, and it's healthy. But I don't know, if you're stopping somewhere that's all fried food or fast food, it's going to be a lot harder to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, the more they could get whole foods into their body, that things that are grown from the ground, that are not packaged, that are not going to be crushed with sugar, the better they're going to be. But that being said, when they're picking up foods from these quick convenient places, the best thing they can do is try to at least look at these ingredients and seeing where you can cut things out.
So when should the big meal be? We're kind of conditioned to have maybe a light lunch and then a big dinner.
So I think it's the opposite, Shelley. I think that it should be more of a big lunch and a light dinner. You never want to go to bed like if you have a big dinner, especially something that includes carbs, even if they're good carbs. So your good carbs would be, your chickpea pasta or some beans or some whole grain whatever. Mm-hmm. But sweet potatoes, these things at night, you have to keep something in mind. Your body responds to sunlight. So as soon as it sees that the sun has gone down and now it is dark, your body is now releasing melatonin, which is a sleep hormone. And that is going to tell your body, hey, I'm getting ready for sleep. So I'm going to start shutting things down. So you don't want to eat something that's going to elevate your blood sugar at night because your body's already getting ready to shut down. And it doesn't need sugar for energy because you're getting ready for sleep. So what is it going to do? It's going to store it as fat. So to answer your question, I would say lunchtime for sure.
Makes sense. And that's what the farmers used to do. It was a big meal in the middle of the day. So we're talking with Dr. Stefania Incollingo, the owner of New Heights Chiropractic and Nutrition. We'll be back with more great information coming up here on TNCRadio.LIVE. Stay tuned for more. This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're talking with Dr. Stefania Incollingo, the owner of New Heights Chiropractic and Nutrition. Dr. Steph, could you tell us more about your background? You've gotten a ton of education and you know so many things.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. So, quick bio about me. I am from Northeast Philadelphia, born and raised. I went to Temple University for undergrad to study my bachelor's in science for biology and was at Temple for 4 years. And then I got into grad school, which was in upstate New York in Seneca Falls, if you're familiar with the area. And that is where I received my degree, my doctorate degree in chiropractic, and at the same time, I got my master's degree in applied clinical nutrition. So that program lasted about 3.5 years. So in total, about 7.5 years leading up to this.
You know, and I think a lot of people have this perception that chiropractors don't have that much education. That's huge. I mean, you have as much as any doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not quite sure where we kind of lost, where that, misconception kind of happened, but medical doctors are well versed in disease and infectious disease and pharmacology, whereas we are well versed in anatomy and physiology, and the anatomy that we have compared to the medical degree is completely matched. We take the same gross anatomy as they do, but they learn certain things about health in more depth in comparison to what we learn in depth. So for us, well, for me specifically, and I love hearing this, you want nutritional advice, you should go see, your medical doctor. Well, you can ask any medical doctor, and if they answer honestly, and if they didn't take an extra degree or course, they only have 4 hours of nutrition in their entire program. Whereas it's crazy. It's crazy. So it does frustrate me when I hear people say that, because that's not what their specialty wanted to be. They wanted to deal with the medical side, and there's nothing against that. They want to learn more about infectious disease, and that's what they did learn about. So there are a lot of MDs who decided to take another degree, like myself, and get their master's in nutrition because they were interested in nutrition. So it's a completely different thing, right? But all in all, yeah, we are in school, and we also have a clinical rotation that we have to do. Granted, their residency is longer than ours. Ours is 10 months, and I believe theirs is a year or two. I want to say 2 years. I'm not exactly sure.
It depends on the specialty.
But this isn't. I'm sorry?
It depends on the specialty. If you're a radiologist, it could be like 3 years. If you're...
Yeah, exactly. And you can also become a radiologist. You can go get your DAC bar from being in chiropractic school as well. So there's a lot of very close comparisons there. But at the end of the day, yes, we are doctors, and yes, we take... I think there's some picture circulating around the web about comparing chiropractic hours to medical hours, and it's really not a comparison game, because we're typically holistic type practices. So we're learning, we're focusing on two different things.
And it's interesting that the medical community is focused more on disease states, whereas a holistic approach, like you have, it's prevention.
Right.
Don't get yourself into that position in the first place. And if you do, these are the ways to get around it and feel better. And nutrition makes absolute sense. I mean, we are what we eat.
Exactly. And, this is not, the medical profession is amazing and it's necessary. And I have literally nothing negative to say about it. The difference is that exactly what you just said. This is conservative care. This is something you want to test the waters out before you decide to go into back surgery or to neck surgery or onto any serious medications. You want to exhaust your options and take care of your body. And this is how you would do it before deciding, okay, my back pain is too bad and I have to get surgery. So there have been plenty of people that I've had to refer out to orthopedic doctors to get surgery and x-rays and MRIs because I thought that their problems were worse. And that's how we are doctors, and we are taught to recognize red flags and know the body and be able to work with other medical professionals.
So would you say a lot of this is a lifestyle change? The drivers need to change their diets. They need to work with you in addition to what you're doing to help them change their pain and lower that pain problem that they have and make them feel better. Do they take baby steps? Because I'm sure a lot of them say, hey, I can't do this.
Yeah, I mean, for my listeners right now, I want you to know that this is not an easy thing to just get up, hear the show, and I'm going to stretch, I'm going to change my diet, I'm going to do all the things. Exactly what you just said, Shelley. I say to my patients all the time, you have to take baby steps, try one thing out, and remember that it is a marathon, it is not a sprint. if you want to make changes to your health, if you want to feel better, if you want more energy and you want to live happier and healthier and you want to live longer, you just take it one step at a time. And I would recommend starting with what you're putting into your body, to be completely honest. Chiropractic is incredible, but you cannot underestimate the power of a proper diet and the nutrients in whole, real foods. It will change everything about your outlook on life and your quality of life. But it's no easy feat. It's a mindset change. And it's just trying to think to yourself and remind yourself that this is what you want, you can get to it. You're capable of getting to where you want to get to. Just take it one step at a time.
Great insight. Dr. Steph, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can absolutely find me on Instagram at New Heights Chiro, CHIRO_. That's my Instagram. I put up videos all the time. I put health tips up there all the time. They're funny, they're quirky, they're quick and they're short, but they're very insightful. I try not to waste too much time and be boring. I tend to make things lighthearted because, we need a little more joy in our lives. But yes, Instagram is a big way to find me. You can also find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, New Heights Chiropractic and Nutrition, the name of my business. You can find me on Google as well. But then I would say that the main way is my Instagram account for sure.
And where are you?
Yep, go ahead.
Where is your clinic located?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm located in Bensalem, PA. Is like right above the greater Northeast Philadelphia region, in front of Parks Casino. So if anyone's familiar with Parks Casino, I'm right in front of Parks Casino. You can call to make an appointment, or you can message me on Instagram to make an appointment as well.
Excellent. You're a wealth of information, Dr. Steph, and I can see why you have patients that sing your virtues, because I'm very impressed, and I imagine you've helped a ton of drivers, and I'm so glad to have you on the show today. We've been talking with Dr. Stefania Incollingo, the owner of New Heights Chiropractic and Nutrition, on the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. We've got the Evening Surge coming up next. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. Definitely stay tuned.
TNCRadio.LIVE, your commercial driver navigation station.
Hi, this is Tom Kelly, managing partner of MSACN, LLC, doing business as TNCRadio.LIVE. The website TNCRadio.LIVE and any content or podcast related to the website are copyrights of MSACN, LLC, copyright 2021. All rights reserved. Any redistribution or reproduction of all or any part of the contents in any form is prohibited other than the following. We welcome you to download and play the publicly available podcast and share with others for personal use. Please acknowledge TNCRadio.LIVE as the source of the material. You may not, except with our express written permission, distribute or commercially exploit the content. And while we endeavor to keep the information up to date and correct, we make no representations or warranties of any kind expressed or implied about the completeness, accuracy, reliability, suitability, or availability with respect to the website, the podcast, or the information, products, services, or related graphics contained on the website or podcast for any purpose. Any reliance you place on such information is therefore strictly at your own risk. For additional information, including details regarding monetization of this podcast, send email to podcasts@tncradio.live.